Good afternoon, everyone. In today's session, we are going to talk about one of the worst energy crises which Europe is facing as we speak. The flow of the session is going to be something like this. We'll talk about what's actually happening when I say energy crisis, what led to this energy crisis, and what measures can Europe take to avoid this energy crisis today, and who's benefiting from this energy crisis. So let's get started. पावर कट्स इनफैक्ट हम लोगों ने काफी पावर कट्स इंडिया में भी देखे हुए हैं एंड पावर कट्स वी आर नॉट न्यू टू पावर कट्स इन इंडिया बट यूरोप में गो डार्क दिस विंटर. यूरोप इज सीइंग वन ऑफ द वर्स्ट एनर्जी क्राइसिस इनफैक्ट सिंस 1970s. Eiffel Tower, which is a symbol of love, which typically goes dark at 1 a.m. in the morning, the government has decided to cut the power and let it go dark at 11:45 p.m. In fact, even Germany has decided to shut off its lights of the Berlin Wall to save power. In terms of ArcelorMittal has decided to shut off its second largest steel producer of the world, by the way, has decided to shut off its plant in Europe, which manufactures steel, owing to crazy amount of power costs. You know, there is this German company called Hackel. It's a company which is more than 100 years old, which manufactures toilet paper. And this company has decided to shut off its operations. Let me remind viewers that this company saw World War I, Great Depression of 1929, World War II, and it survived all of these and filed for bankruptcy a couple of weeks back because of this energy crisis. To communicate to you guys how serious this energy crisis is. In fact, Spain, on the other hand, the Prime Minister of Spain came on live session and he actually explained that people of Spain should stop wearing suits to save power because suits पहनते हैं तो गर्मी होती है तो AC लगानी पड़ती है. I am not kidding. In fact, even French government has decided to penalize stores जिनके दरवाजे खुले होते हैं और stores में AC चल रहा होता है. Germans have started piling wood and keep it in their houses because winter is coming and power is so expensive that they have to choose whether you have to eat or you have to heat. To get started, in fact, we want to talk about this power crisis a lot more detailed. In fact, steel producers, aluminum producers and fertilizer producers, these companies require a crazy amount of power intake and such plants are shutting down across Europe. Europe is seeing one of the lowest level of production since 1970s. But trust me, recession is not the worry of the hour. The worry of the hour is how will they survive this upcoming winter. So let's discuss this in much more detail. How is it that Europe got to this far? इतनी बुरी situation कैसे हो गई? How is it that this happened? So let me explain. Power किसी भी country के अंदर कैसे generate होता है? There are multiple sources of power, like nuclear power, जहाँ पे आप nuclear energy use करके power generate करते हो. Hydroelectric power, जहाँ पे water and turbines use करके आप electricity generate करते हो. Natural gas or even renewables. So let me explain each and every source of energy. What happened is, last year, all European countries met together and they decided that they are going to go for a net zero target. Net zero target matlab they are going to generate less carbon emissions or they are going to target less carbon emissions ताकि पूरे world के अंदर pollution कम हो. They decided to shut down their nuclear power plants and decided to go green. Honestly, the Go Green initiative taken by these governments was gonna take a lot more time, and by then Russia-Ukraine war had not started. Now, this is the reason why a lot of European countries shut off their thermal power plants, which basically is coal से जो power generate होता है, nuclear power plants जहाँ पे nuclear energy use करके आप power generate करते हो, and they decided to rely on alternatives like renewables, solar energies and whatnot. Obviously, the solar energy power generation requires an infrastructure which is not built overnight. So that is going to take time, and that is why they decided, from comparison to 1990s, they decided to reduce their carbon emission by 55% till they reach 2030. That was precisely the plan before Russia-Ukraine war happened. Now, that was nuclear energy. Let's talk about hydroelectric energy. Hydroelectric energy में water falls on a turbine and then turbine rotates and electricity gets generated. That's a very simplified version of it. Europe is going through one of the worst droughts of decades. In fact, Europe के अंदर Spain, Portugal is seeing one of the worst heat waves of the century. This is the reason, in fact, many of the rivers of Europe have dried up. And that is why even hydroelectric power plants have shut down. Now, nuclear energy नहीं रहेगी क्योंकि net zero carbon emission का target ले रखा है. Hydroelectricity energy नहीं रहेगी. And renewables का infrastructure नहीं है. The entire Europe was hellbent or is hellbent at the moment or on the knees for natural gas to generate power. When it comes to power generation via natural gas, Europe consumes about 100 billion cubic meters per annum. This much, 110 billion cubic meters per annum natural gas every year to generate power. Which, by the way, they get through 5 pipelines, most of them coming from Russia. To explain, one is Nord Stream 1 basically, which is an operational pipeline directly from Russia to Germany, which provides about 55 billion cubic meters per annum natural gas. That is about 40 to 45% of entire Europe's natural gas consumption. एक pipeline से 45% natural gas आता है. दूसरी pipeline Yamal, which provides about 33 billion cubic meters, once again from Russia. Because Europe generates more than 80% of its natural gas consumption from Russia. When Russia-Ukraine war happened, entire Europe and US sanctioned against Russia कि आपने ये नहीं करना चाहिए. When everyone banned trades with Russia, Russia decided to increase the gas prices because it knew that Europe is precisely on its knees and completely dependent on Russia to provide natural gas. So essentially, when Russia increased prices of natural gas, it's Europe which is financing the Russia-Ukraine war. मतलब रशिया-यूक्रेन वॉर का जो भी पैसा लग रहा है या खर्चा लग रहा है, ये precisely यूरोप की जेब से जा रहा है. Because Russia has sort of like a monopoly in this domain because it supplies more than 80% of natural gas requirements of Europe. Now what happened is recently Russia shut down its Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which by the way, just a recap, provides about 45% of natural gas consumption which entire Russia requires, entire Europe requires. अब अगर आपकी न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी नहीं रही, हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं रही, आपका थर्मल पावर प्लांट्स बंद हो चुके हैं, बंद कर दिया है आपने बिकॉज यू वांट टू गो फॉर नेट जीरो एमिशंस. यू आर हेल बेंट ऑन ओनली वन सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी और उसका भी 50% पाइपलाइन रशिया बंद कर देता है. एंड लेट मी रिमाइंड यू, जो यूक्रेन से गैस आ रहा था वो भी बंद हो गया था बिकॉज यूक्रेन वॉज इन्वॉल्व इन वॉर. So in fact, the entire almost 50 to 80% consumption of natural gas was shut down, or rather 50 to 80% supply of natural gas was shut down when it comes to this natural gas domain. अब ये 80% अगर natural gas supply बंद हो चुका है, the entire Europe is thinking, how will I survive this upcoming winter? The prices of natural gas, what happens when there is a shutdown on supply and there is an increase in demand? Let me remind, why is there an increase in demand? Because दूसरे sources of power बंद हो चुके हैं, so natural gas का demand बढ़ चुका है. When there is an increase in demand and there is a shutdown in supply, the prices of that particular commodity increases crazily, right? Natural gas prices increased by 10 times in just one single year. मतलब जो नेचुरल गैस टिपिकली यूरोप खरीदता था अराउंड 50 euros पर मेगावाट आवर, by paying that much amount to buy that natural gas, they are now paying more than 300 euros, which by the way had gone even higher. Recently थोड़ा price correct हुआ है, but as you can see, it's more than 5 to 7 times right now. This is 10 times the price of natural gas which is available in US. अब यहां पे दिमाग चमकता है बिजनेसमैन का कि अगर यूएस में नेचुरल गैस सस्ता मिलता है तो व्हाई नॉट सप्लाई दैट नेचुरल गैस टू यूरोप. विल कम टू दैट एज वेल इन द अपकमिंग सेक्शंस. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू नेचुरल गैस प्रोविजन, Natural gas supply took a huge hit. The prices of natural gas increased, and naturally, obviously, ऐसे cases के अंदर जब prices of natural gas crazily increase हो जाते हैं, everyone is looking out for ways to find out alternatives. Coming to the next section of this session, what are the choices left with Europe now? What is it that Europe can do to survive this upcoming energy crisis? अब Europe के पास में when it comes to choices, there are two things which Europe can do. First, decrease the demand of natural gas. How is it that you can do? I think we just saw some of the measures taken by these governments कि power बंद कर दो, unnecessary AC चल रहा है तो दरवाजे बंद कर दो. In fact, in Europe they have made it a rule that people can, no more hot showers at work, no more hot showers in swimming pool areas. It's completely cold now. In fact, in the heat wave, to reduce the AC consumption, they have mandated dressing styles different ho chuki hai. And that is one of the reasons how they are targeting demand cuts. When it comes to demand cuts, they are also trying to reduce, unnecessary spillage of power, like historical monuments पे आप अपना power outage कम कर रहे हो, Paris Tower, Eiffel Tower का power आप कम कर रहे हो, naturally lights कम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो. That is one part, the alternative. The second part is, let's try and find a substitute for the same. To talk about substitutes, these countries which recently shut off their thermal power plants are now again switching on their thermal power plants. Thermal power plants बंद करके चालू करना is not much of a big deal, but nuclear power plants बंद करके चालू करना takes a long process. This is the reason why nuclear power plants will not be up anytime soon, but thermal power plants are up. Naturally, everyone is like, to hell with net zero emission. Let's focus on the upcoming winter and survival first. कल का कल देखा जाएगा pollution का issue. This is the reason why they have started switching on their thermal power plants. The next step which they have done is they have tried to find an alternative to the natural gas which they get from Russian pipelines. The next alternative which they have is liquefied natural gas. This liquefied natural gas, guess who is the largest provider of liquefied natural gas in the world? US. US seems to be providing this liquefied natural gas to Europe now. Europe has found solutions to buy this liquefied natural gas from US and somehow use that liquefied natural gas to cater to its power needs. But it's not that easy. It's very expensive. It's very uneconomical because transportation risk bhi rehta hai. And let me remind viewers, liquefied natural gas एक high pressured engines के अंदर या high pressured vessels के अंदर आता है because it's a gas which has been converted into liquid. So what they plan to do now is they have come up with these floating storage and regasification units. These are basically like floating units on the ocean besides the country boundaries जहाँ पे ये liquefied natural gas जो US से आ रहा है will be put in those storage and then converted into gas, and then those storages will supply gas to the countries. So countries which have ocean lines or sea lines or coasts, वहाँ पे they have started establishing these FSRUs, floating storage and regasification units. In fact, Germany has already established 5 such FSRUs, and to explain the quantity or quantum of these FSRUs, it carries about 8 billion cubic meters per annum. And let me remind everyone, the typical consumption of Europe is 110 billion units per annum, metric unit per annum. So, ऐसे बहुत सारे storage units लगेंगे to at least store that gas and then survive this upcoming winter. This is good for countries which have a coastline like Germany or Italy, let's say, उन लोगों ने कर रखा है. Baltic countries, जहाँ पे Baltic Sea वगैरह के through, they can store those. But what of countries which are landlocked? Landlocked मतलब जिसके आजू बाजू सिर्फ land है. They can't store these gases in these LSRUs. Countries like Czech Republic, they are completely in chaos. In fact, Such countries are trying to get into some sort of arrangement with Germany, which has these kind of coastline जहाँ पे ये लोग store करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं gas in these floating units. In fact, they are also trying to arrange for natural gases from other countries. Another country which actually is winning in this scenario apart from US is Norway. Italy is trying to arrange natural gas from Norway, Azerbaijan, and other countries as well. Now the thing is, this natural gas is not just in demand, liquefied natural gas is not just in demand in Europe, it is also in demand in Asia. अब ऐसे डोमेन में Russia, which everyone is trying to blame that it is Russia's fault, energy crisis Europe में हो रहा है. Let me remind users, Russia shut down the power line, the pipeline, gas pipeline, citing reasons that there are maintenance concerns. In fact, recently, एक हफ्ते पहले, there are pictures in the Baltic Sea in the square kilometer of one square kilometer area जहाँ पे gas pipe मतलब ocean में से बाहर आ रहा है because there is a leakage in the gas pipeline. Now someone either sabotaged these pipelines or actually it was a thing which was done voluntarily by the country, by Russia trying to stop or starve this European countries from gas consumption to sort of get what they want. What is it that Russia would want in this scenario? They already have a monopoly, right? Some people are accusing Russia of doing this on their own because they want approval for the second Nord pipeline. They haven't yet got that approval. And that is one of the reasons why people are accusing that it's Russia which is doing this on purpose. Now, to talk of who wins from this crisis, obviously, it's like World War II all over again. Maybe the Cold War between Russia and US never stopped, and this seems to have taken picture on the grounds of Europe and Ukraine. Russia is simply using this opportunity, US is simply using this opportunity to ensure that they again win the war and they remain supreme power. One could argue to the fact that a sabotage may have happened on the hands of someone who actually benefits from this crisis, right? Which happens to be the main contender is US, because they are the ones, and even Canada, they are the ones who actually provide these liquefied natural gas to these European countries. Now, here's the current situation of Europe. Almost 84% of storage, they have these gases. If these FSRUs are a successful maneuver into this territory where they find out that these FSRUs might actually work, this could be a turn of events in the entire century, because Europe may go completely self-reliant, at least in terms of Europe, that they no longer have to import natural gas from Europe, and they can survive based on other country imports as well. What does these turn of events actually point for future? What might we see in near future? Europe is in the brink of one of the worst recessions one might see. Shutting down of factories is not really a good thing. People may be focusing on the recent survival events of the winter, but if you think of long term, shutting down factories will lead to cut down of jobs. If jobs are cut down in these inflationary environments where people are actually worried कि मैं खाना खाऊं या गरम, अपना घर गरम करूं, basically, in the sense that I should either heat my house and survive in the winter, or I should shrivel and still try to feed my stomach. The whole point of this energy crisis is becoming to be the fact that this could lead into one of the worst recessions of Europe, where these factories are shutting down, people might lose jobs. Already we are seeing one of the worst moves by the Great Britain governments in terms of, the currency has seen really worst turn of events. Obviously, that's a tale for another session.